will support our agriculture, food processing, and retail businesses to help them continue to provide safe, accessible, and affordable food for all Albertans. In Alberta, this has always been relevant, but it is critically important now given the stresses of COVID-19. To be clear, Alberta's food supply is well established, and it will maintain. Alberta's food production and distribution systems are diverse and stable. We are in constant contact with our partners in Alberta's food supply chain, and Albertans can be confident that the necessary steps are being taken to make sure people have what they need. To ensure Alberta's food supply systems are maintained, we are taking the following actions. We are putting an official request through to the federal government to deem the entire food supply chain as an essential service to ensure a safe and stable food supply for Albertans. There are a lot of moving parts to get food to markets and on kitchen tables. Alberta's supply chain is responding well, but it is not business as usual. Restaurants have seen a significant change. More Albertans are working from home and not eating out as often. Albertans are making fewer trips to the grocery store, and some have unnecessarily been stockpiling or bulk buying out of fear of future shortages. Major retailers have shared that they are seeing a 50% increase in total sales, and sales per customers have doubled. Demand for long shelf life products and fresh meat has significantly increased. And I want to clearly state and reiterate what Premier Kenney and Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Hinshaw, have said to Albertans. Do not hoard food and daily essentials. The system is intact, and people should be mindful of irrational panic buying and the effect it has on their neighbours. Food banks here in Alberta have also seen a huge rise in requests for support, and they will expect this trend will continue. Unfortunately, as Albertans face great adversity, we have seen donations drop due to the economic impact of this current pandemic. Our government is working closely with food banks across the province to understand the requirements and assess their short, medium, and long-term needs to ensure they have necessary food supply. Demand is also escalating for food processors who supply retail markets, with some processors operating 24/7. The main priority for this sector, and our food supply sector, is to keep their workers healthy and to ensure product safety. Food processors are already subject to very strict sanitation protocols and practices, but are also implementing enhanced measures recommended by Alberta Health Services and the Canadian Food Inspection Agency guidelines to ensure staff and products are safe. We are working with the federal government to ensure our processing facilities are moving products into the supply chain safely, to ensure food is getting to stores. We know that access to personal protective equipment is essential, and we are working with food processors and other levels of government to ensure they have access to a secure supply. Many facilities already had pandemic or emergency response plans in place and are running well. To respond to the increase in retail sales, Alberta's distribution systems have increased its capacity in the overall number and frequencies of deliveries. We are monitoring this capacity to ensure the distribution system is well equipped to keep up with retail demand. Railway operations are recovering from the disruption caused by rail blockades and labour disputes which impacted the movement of goods across the country. However, CN has assured us that they have the capacity to address this sudden spike in demand and to alleviate pressures on long-haul truck drivers. The Alberta Motor Transport Association assured us that the supply chain is moving well, and the efforts by government to keep trucking lines open are working so far. Canada has garnered exemptions for commercial carriers involved in Canada-US cross-border travel, with daily trade access across the Canada-US border totaling more than $1.7 billion. In particular, truck drivers and train crews are exempt from the 14-day self-isolation requirements after crossing the U.S. border. The federal and provincial governments are also supporting small to medium-sized businesses to take some of the immediate financial pressures off. And we are working with Alberta's farmers, ranchers, and farm groups to ensure there are no additional barriers to primary production throughout this pandemic. Retail demand for food is high. However, all four components of our food supply chain are fully functioning, including producers, processors, food retailers, and distributors. And again, I would like to reiterate to Albertans that you do not need to stockpile food and supplies. This practice puts additional pressures on our food system, including food banks, which have seen a substantial rise in requests for support. And they expect this trend to continue. And I want to again reassure Albertans that our food supply will remain safe, secure, and accessible.